So let's talk about something most people never think twice about. The food sitting in your kitchen right now and what it's actually doing to your body over time. Not in a fear-mongering way, just the science laid out clearly, because the research on this is genuinely worth knowing. Let's start with oils, since they're hiding in almost everything you cook or buy. The plant-based oils lining most grocery shelves, think soybean, corn, and canola, go through an industrial extraction process involving high heat, mechanical crushing, and chemical solvents before they ever reach a bottle. By that point, the fat molecules are structurally fragile. They oxidize easily, and once inside your body, that oxidation contributes to what researchers call cellular oxidative stress. Long-term studies on cardiovascular health and skin aging have consistently tied excessive omega-6 oxidation, the kind these oils produce, to accelerated tissue damage. It's worth knowing which oils are cold-pressed and which aren't. Closely related is the story of margarine. For decades, it was marketed as the heart-smart alternative to butter. What wasn't widely advertised was the partial hydrogenation process behind it, a technique that embeds synthetic trans fats into the product. These fats interact with your cell membranes in ways your body's enzymes can't properly process. They don't break down the way naturally occurring fats do. Research into metabolic syndrome has linked even small accumulations of synthetic trans fats to arterial stiffening and elevated systemic inflammation over time. The labeling loophole, where a serving size can be shrunk small enough to legally claim 0 trans fats per serving, makes this one of the harder things to screen for on a package. Now, let's talk about something you've probably had this week: processed deli meats. Ham, hot dogs, commercial bacon, and pre-sliced deli cuts are typically preserved with synthetic nitrates and nitrites, compounds that lock in color and prevent spoilage. Once those preservatives enter your digestive system, your stomach's acidity converts them into a class of compounds called nitrosamines. Oncological research has identified nitrosamines as substances that can actively interfere with the integrity of intestinal cell DNA. The World Health Organization has classified processed meats in the same category as other confirmed carcinogens, not because one sandwich causes cancer, but because the cumulative daily exposure adds up in ways that matter over a lifetime. From there, let's move to something that feels deceptively healthy: fruit juice. A whole piece of fruit is a slow-release system. The natural sugars are embedded in a structure of fiber that your digestive tract has to physically break down, which slows the absorption of those sugars significantly. Juicing strips all of that away. What remains is a concentrated liquid sugar load with no fiber buffer. Research on metabolic function shows that this kind of rapid glucose and fructose delivery puts immediate pressure on your liver, which, when flooded faster than it can process, converts the excess fructose directly into fat. Drinking the juice of 3 or 4 oranges in one glass is metabolically a very different experience than eating one orange. The vitamin profile might look similar, but the physiological response is not. On that note, refined sugar and high fructose corn syrup deserve their own mention because fructose, specifically, is processed exclusively through the liver, unlike glucose, which can be taken up by nearly any cell in the body. When fructose arrives in large quantities, it overwhelms the liver's processing capacity. The byproduct is fat accumulation in and around the liver itself, the same mechanism behind non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which has become significantly more common as refined fructose consumption has risen. Elevated liver fat compromises the organ's ability to regulate blood pressure, filter metabolic waste, and manage cholesterol, all of which accelerates the broader aging process at the systemic level. Next up, what happens when those processed oils meet extremely high heat? Deep frying involves submerging food in oils that are already structurally unstable, then heating them to temperatures that degrade them further, often reusing the same oil across many cycles. At those temperatures, a class of compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs, forms on the surface of the food. Clinical research focused on tissue aging has identified AGEs as a significant contributor to the stiffening of blood vessels and connective tissue, the degradation of collagen in skin, and increased strain on cardiovascular function. The more AGEs accumulate, the more rigid and less functional those tissues become. Now let's talk about what you ate for breakfast. Commercial breakfast cereals and most instant oatmeal products go through a mechanical extrusion process that essentially pulverizes the grain's natural structure. The fiber, which normally slows how quickly your digestive enzymes can access the carbohydrates, is largely destroyed. The result is a product that your body converts into blood glucose almost immediately. That sharp glucose spike demands a large insulin response to bring it back down, and the resulting crash typically lands within an hour or two, leaving you hungry and fatigued well before lunch. Studies tracking populations over time have linked this kind of daily blood sugar volatility to declining insulin sensitivity, which is an early marker on the path toward metabolic disease. Speaking of disrupted metabolism, let's address artificial sweeteners. Switching from sugar to zero-calorie sweeteners sounds like a clean trade, but the research is more complicated. When your taste receptors detect sweetness, your brain initiates a physiological cascade preparing your body to receive and process calories. With artificial sweeteners, those calories never arrive. What some studies on gut microbiome health have found is that this repeated mismatch can alter the composition of intestinal bacteria, specifically reducing populations of beneficial strains while favoring those associated with fat storage. Over time, this appears to reduce what researchers describe as metabolic flexibility, the body's ability to efficiently switch between fuel sources. Counterintuitively, some long-term research has associated artificial sweetener consumption with increased body weight, not reduced. Now for something that genuinely surprises people: modern wheat. Wheat varieties cultivated today look nothing like ancient grains from a molecular standpoint. Over the last half-century, agricultural breeding programs optimized wheat for yield, weather resistance, and texture, not digestibility. The result is a grain with a significantly altered protein structure, including modified gluten configurations. Research in clinical gastroenterology has pointed to modern wheat as a common driver of chronic low-grade gut inflammation, even in people who test negative for celiac disease. The mechanism involves a weakening of the intestinal barrier, what's sometimes called intestinal permeability, which allows partially digested particles to enter the bloodstream and trigger ongoing immune activity. That constant low-level immune engagement has downstream effects on energy, inflammation levels, and cellular aging. Then there's low-fat dairy, another product that resulted from well-intentioned public health advice that didn't quite land the way it was intended. The fat in whole dairy products isn't just a calorie source. It contains fat-soluble vitamins and digestive enzymes that help your body properly absorb and process the proteins and sugars in the milk. Remove the fat, and those cofactors go with it. The remaining liquid, particularly in pasteurized low-fat products, delivers milk sugars rapidly and without the moderating effect of fat, which can provoke stronger blood sugar responses and, in some people, pronounced immune reactions. Fermented full-fat dairy products like whole yogurt or kefir are consistently better tolerated in dietary research, largely because the fermentation process pre-digests some of the more problematic components. And finally, ultra-processed fast food, which is essentially a convergence of every issue covered above. The engineered combination of refined flour, industrial oils, hidden sugars, synthetic preservatives, and artificial flavorings creates a product that delivers substantial calories while providing almost none of the micronutrients your cells need for repair, immune function, or sustained energy production. Your liver and kidneys have to work overtime clearing synthetic additives, while your actual nutritional needs go unmet. The research on ultra-processed food consumption and long-term health outcomes is now extensive, and it consistently points in the same direction. None of this requires perfection. It's not about eliminating everything at once. It's about knowing what you're dealing with, so the choices you make are actually informed ones. Small, consistent shifts toward less processed options accumulate into real differences over years and decades. If this kind of content is useful to you, a like helps more people find it, and subscribing means you'll catch the next video where we get into what the longevity research actually says you should be eating and why. See you there.